Good evening, everyone. Here with our first delve into a little bit of NASCAR talk on the channel here. My name's Sean, SEC Sean. We just trying to jump in and get a little more spread out on our knowledge here with WT Sports Dudes. Give a quick shout out to the crew. We got Robert with WT Sports Dudes. All these are available on YouTube, by the way. You can check out Moss at Level Up Sports 10. You got Parlay Poe, who runs the Blitzburg podcast. Post Game, who runs the Post Game 86 podcast, I believe is the name of his. You got Zaya, you got FanDuel Zay. You can find him, and then T1. You can find him at City League TV on YouTube and Facebook. Believe I got all of our crew locked in on that. Just doing something a little different. It's one of the best, to me, it's the best sporting event for fans. One of the only sporting events, if not the only, that you can not only get free tickets to, free merchandise, you can also, most racetracks allow you to bring in your own cooler with your own drinks and food. Which is totally different. Obviously, you're not going to wind up going to a professional football game and being able to just reach into your cooler and grab out a cold beverage of your choice. But as far as the series goes and what gets me going with it is, I'm a big car guy. I love cars, the old American muscle cars, Mustangs, Chevelles, the old Camaros, Chargers, the old loudness of the big V8 engines. It gets me sucked in. I love it. I just one of those things. Let's see, we got some people in the chat already over here. We got we got Moss over here with Level Up 10 Sports. Evening, Moss. Good to see you. See Post Game popped in. Post Game, how's you? Hope your evening's going good. But as far as it goes with the whole sport is it's a crazy start. If you go back and look at the history of NASCAR, it started by moonshiners running from the law, and they just started there. Let's just, instead of do this, let's race. Pretty good movie out there to give you the intro, the beginning of it. It's called Red Dirt Rising. You can find it on Netflix too. Pretty good little show. Tells you kind of the origins of the sport. Sport's been around 76 years. It's the best form of motorsports in my mind. It's bumper to bumper. I explain to some of the guys when I'm explaining to get on the interstate and get 2 inches, 3 inches behind the car in front of you, but now do that at 180 miles an hour. And you got a car to your right and a car to your left, and they're about 6 inches off the side of your doors. The amount of skill it takes to do something like that, it freaks me out just thinking about it. You go, you got a lot more. We'll get into a lot more as we go along, but there's one of the things I want to bring out to everybody, and I wouldn't start this till later on, but there's an app out there called the NASCAR app, obviously. And if you sign up and go through and select, and there's little, newsletters, and every Tuesday and Thursday they have a question on there, and every Wednesday they do this Powerball drawing for points, and you just stack points. At the end of the year, the points expire December 12th, but you have different statuses. You have rookie, amateur, and I think challenger as the 3 levels. And they're different point levels, but they give you bonus points for each thing you do. Fantasy teams, the questions, checking into races, which is just simply opening the app and hit check in every race. Normally there's 3 per weekend, so it's 150 points every weekend. You get to 5,000 points. You cash in those points. They send you 2 tickets to the race of your choice, and they're good seats. We've had pretty good seats. Me and my wife, we've gone to. Me and my wife went to 2 races so far with the free tickets, and me and my son went to 1 race so far. We've been to St. Louis, Texas, Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee, and Michigan. In the Michigan track from here in Columbus, where I am right now, it's about 2 hours. It's really close. So that's a little bit about the sport and some of the stuff. And as I said, we'll get more in depth as to the app and more of the teams, the dynamics of the teamwork of NASCAR and all that stuff. Different sponsorships, things like that, how the series has evolved over the years. I know I had one person ask me who would be the top 5 drivers all time in NASCAR. And that's a tough one. The first 3 are really easy. Richard Petty, known as the King, has 200 wins by far. The next closest to him has 105. Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Jimmy Johnson. Now, those 3 are easy 1, 2, 3 because those are the only 3 people with 7 championships. In fact, Jimmy Johnson holds the record. He won 5 consecutive. And that's, I mean, you think it's hard winning back to back in football, basketball, baseball, doing 5 in a row in a sport where 36 other competitors are on the field at the same time at every race, 36 races a year. That's probably never, it will probably never be matched again. 4 and 5 can be debated. I put Jeff Gordon at 4 because he has the next, which is the 4 championships. And Jeff Gordon was really one of the first ones to bring kind of the younger crowd in. Everybody called him Hollywood and Pretty Boy and numerous other nicknames. He was like one of the real first big ones from California to make it. So this series, I mean, used to be based pretty much in the South and the East. And now it's nationwide. In fact, last year we raced in Mexico City. They're trying to go international. The 5th person on the list, I don't know about this. I put Darrell Waltrip and then David Pearson. I put both of them. David Pearson is the gentleman with 105 wins. He has 3 championships. Darrell Waltrip has 3 championships and 84 wins. But there was a stretch where Darrell Waltrip was the face of the sport. David Pearson really never was the face of the sport. So I kind of put those 2 in a tie. But look, you start getting into NASCAR, you have a driver, you start following a driver, you could follow a driver who's young right now, up and coming. You turn around and in 15, 20 years, he's retired. You would probably put him at number 5 because you think he's great. My favorite driver retired 2 years ago. Used to drive the number 4 car for Busch Light, Kevin Harvick. This is actually the guy who took over the car after he retired, had Josh Berry. But again, went to the race, got him to sign it. Josh Berry took over for him, but Kevin Harvick was my favorite of all time. He took over after the 2001 Daytona 500, which if anybody looks it up, that was the race that Dale Earnhardt Sr. died in. And he got thrust into taking over Dale Earnhardt's car as a 25-year-old kid. I say kid at 25, but to me, 25, you're a kid. So there was a lot of pressure on him, and he just became one of my favorites. You ever want to, go back and look at stuff? You can go on the internet and get on either YouTube's NASCAR channel. You can get on there's a site called NASCARclassics.com, which has hundreds upon hundreds of races you can watch. Other than that, there's just so many things in this sport that are so different. And I'm sure some of the stuff I mentioned will pique some more interesting questions. And, feel free if you're watching, drop them in the chat. We'll get to them. We got a couple right now. Excuse me. One from the Robert over here at WTPP Sports Dudes. What's the noise level like at a NASCAR race? Is it louder than 100,000 screaming fans at a college football game? Yes, and it's not close. It's like standing under an airplane as it's coming over the top of you. It is one of the loudest. Some racetracks are different. Michigan, it's only really loud when the cars come in front of you. Bristol, which is a half-mile track, mind you, and the guys are doing laps in 13 seconds. Bristol, me and my wife could not speak to each other because we couldn't hear each other the whole time. You have to wear earplugs at a Bristol, and I would suggest wearing them at all times, and especially if you take children, make them wear earplugs. A race like Michigan, I don't normally wear earplugs, but at the smaller tracks, I do. You can't. There's no comparison. You could take 100,000 fans at all your premier college football programs, and I'm not sure it'd be as loud as a NASCAR race. You're talking 500 to 700 horsepower times 36 cars. It's pretty intense. Next, same person here. Okay. What's your best memory at a live race? It's kind of a tie. The first race, well, not the first race, but one of the races of the first race I went to with my son was the final year that my favorite driver was racing. And so I drove over to St. Louis and got to watch him race one last time live. That was pretty cool. And to share it with my son, and my son got kind of hooked into the sport. He goes to the St. Louis race almost every year now. The other part of it would be the year we went down to Bristol, Tennessee, me and the wife. We made a whole weekend of it. We went to Charlotte to the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I'll get more into that at the end of this podcast. But my wife is one that she would watch it. It'd be on TV and she'd peek up when I say something about, big wreck or whatever. She'd look. But she wasn't really into it. And I took her to a race. She's locked. You go to a race one time, you'll be locked in. And that's all there is to it. So those are probably my two favorite memories. Let's see. What do we got next? Are NASCAR drivers the most skillful of all the race car drivers? I would have to, in my mind, yes. There will be a claim made that the guys that drive the Indy cars or the Formula One cars are more skillful. But to me, these NASCAR guys, yes, a lot of it, people think you just turn left, you turn left, you turn left all day. We have courses and road courses and street. We raced in downtown Chicago last year. We're racing on a naval base next year. There's right-hand turns, left-hand turns. But in the other series, there's a lot more penalties for bumping somebody or cutting somebody off, where in NASCAR, it's kind of encouraged. They're in my way. I need to go. You hit them in the rear. They move up the track a little bit. You go on right underneath them. You do that in any other form of motorsports? No, that's a penalty. Sorry. So, to me, they're the most skillful, because you've also got 36 cars on the track, sometimes more. And you've got all of them bunched. Normally, they're near each other. There are races where they get spread out, but a lot of times you've got 36 cars that you could literally say from the time the first car crosses the start-finish line to the last car, there's sometimes that whole gap is 2.2 seconds. And that's to be able to keep a car off each other, away from each other, literally bump somebody on some of the tracks, Daytona, Talladega. They will literally hit each other on purpose to push them forward over and over and over. One wrong push and it wrecks, but they're so skilled at doing it. It's one of the most insane things I've ever seen. So I would say NASCAR drivers are the most skillful. You get an argument from other things, from other people, just stating, that they like F1 better. F1's the movie stars. NASCAR's the blue collar boys. It's just the way I look at it. So yeah, even Robert jumping on earplugs. Yeah, it's super loud. Post game, good question. How good was Danica? Danica was good, but Danica was one of the first females to really take a shot at the NASCAR real hard. And she didn't get a lot of respect, which was shocking too, because at one point her boss was Tony Stewart, who was another one of the premier drivers. Tony Stewart is an amazing driver in his own right. He drove Indy cars, he drove NASCARs, and now he's racing dragsters in the NHRA drag race series, and he owns the team. But he owned a NASCAR team also, and she was on that team. But she never got respect. She would get bumped, she'd get spun, she'd get wrecked. But I liked Danica. I thought she was good for the sport. She brought in a lot of young girls that we see that are in the lower series of NASCAR right now. They're in there because of people like Danica Patrick. And I think it's a good thing. There's one girl, I think she races, I want to say she races in the ARCA series, which is the lowest tier of motorsports for NASCAR. NASCAR has like baseball does. They have tiers. We have the ARCA Menard series, then you have the Truck series, then you have the Xfinity series, then you have the Big Boys, the Cup series. She's down in there, but her name's Isabella Robusto, and that girl's always in the top 5. She's a name I'm watching for females to come out of the levels down there. Differences between, we already kind of talked about that, but those differences between the penalties for bumping each other and stuff, there's also some others. I mean, NASCAR cars are all the same, give or take. They're stock cars. They're cars. They have to be in production from the manufacturer to be raced. And of course, they're modified with bigger engines and roll cages and all that safety stuff. But Ford races the Mustang. Chevy races what is now the Camaro, but they're stopping production of the Camaro. So Chevy has to find a new car. And Toyota uses the Camry. Those are the 3 manufacturers right now in the sport. But NASCAR and Indy race laps. Formula One races a clock. They set a timer for 2 hours and they race for 2 hours. Or if they finish all the laps, fine. But if they don't, and there's 10 laps left, they just end the race after 2 hours. NASCAR races based on what size track you're at. So like the Daytona 500 is a 2-mile track, 2.5 miles, sorry. So they race 250 laps. Bristol, the race I was talking about, the short track, is a 1/2-mile track, but the race is called the, Bristol Night Race by Bass Pro Shops 500. That's 500 laps. So, which is 250 miles on a 1/2-mile track. But it depends on the size, and that's how you get the justification for, is it going to be a 200-lap race or a 400-lap race? So that's the difference there. NASCAR will invoke time standards if there's an issue with some tracks don't have lights. So they can't race, obviously, in the dark because the cars don't have headlights. They look like it, but they don't. So they can't race at night. So like when we raced in Chicago a couple of years ago, when the torrential rain fell, they wound up having to cut the race short because sunset was at SO time, like at 8:20. So they had to cut the race at 8:15. So when they got to 8:15 and the driver hit the start finish line, they said last lap, and that ended the race early because the lights weren't enough on the streets of downtown Chicago to light it for a NASCAR. So that's the difference between those right there. As I mentioned, you have 3 main manufacturers: Ford, Chevy, Toyota, and that's in the top 2 series. In the 3rd series, the Truck series, that is that's 3 also, but next year Dodge is making their comeback. So next year you'll have Ford, Chevy, Toyota, and Dodge in the truck series. And Dodge is bringing back their Hemi and all that. So pretty exciting to have the Dodge boys come back. They were always a pretty big part of this sport. Going back to what I was talking about earlier about the memories and the Hall of Fame over in Charlotte, that is the most fan-friendly, hands-on Hall of Fame I've ever been to. And I have been to every major sports Hall of Fame. I've been to the pro football, basketball, baseball, and hockey. I've been to all of them. And that one right there is by far the most fan-friendly. You go in, you get your little badge when you check in, get your picture made. They put your picture up on the big screen and you check off who your favorite drivers and all this, and it puts up all these stats up there for you. Your badge has a little thing on it you can scan to set off different, little modules and stuff. You can actually do a pit crew inside of there. You can, put the gas in, change the tires, jack the car up. You can get on their simulator and race an actual car. And then if you're good enough on the simulator, then you can actually go into an actual race mechanism inside of a car with 12 other people racing on a big screen. As much as I'm into NASCAR, I didn't do too well on a simulator. I'm just going to go ahead and tell y'all. I was pretty good at going in circles, just not on the track. But there, you can sit there, and if you go with some people, like I can sit here and I'm just going to throw out post game because I see his name first. He can sit on the other side and he can be like the race director and I'm the commentator, and he can tell me what I'm fixing to see. And so I know what to talk about and all this. Tons of artifacts in there, tons of just history of it. They've got when you first on the first floor, they've got cars and you can see them from outside, and then the track just does this. And you can actually stand on what the banking is like. Some of these bankings are 36-degree bankings. You're talking like this, and the cars are going in circles around them. Some tracks are flat, pretty flat. They're not all perfectly flat, but pretty flat. So there's a lot to it. It's one of the best events to me. Going to a NASCAR race is not going to the race. Yes, there's a race there, but let me tell you something. When you get on there and you pull up to the track, you'll have 100,000 people, 50,000 people, 90,000 people, whatever the case may be. And there's just stuff. It's like a huge carnival before the race starts. Merchandise haulers, NASCAR cars to sit in, question and answers with some of the most popular drivers. There's so many different things going on. We get to the race starts if the race starts at 2, we normally get to the racetrack about 10 o'clock. And then by the time we're done looking around and doing everything, we're racing to get to our seats because we've lost track of time. So there's all kinds of stuff to do there. It's more of an event than it is just a race. And if you have the time and the effort and the energy, you can literally, the track up at Michigan, that's a 3-day weekend race. The truck's on Friday, the Xfinity on Saturday, and the Cup on Sunday. You go to all 3 of them and have a different experience at all 3 of them. So it's just one of those things that it's not as popular in the northern areas. I mean, it's pretty popular in Columbus, I'll tell you that, but mainly because y'all have a driver named Ryan Blaney who's from Columbus, Ohio. Menards, the autos, the store, they're the big sponsor of the ARCA series. They sponsor numerous race cars. Kroger's a big sponsor. There's tons of things in this sport that to me make it the most exciting sporting event I've ever been to live. I don't know what else. Let's see. where else can we go with this? Like I said, the app and stuff for the free tickets and free merchandise and stuff. We'll get into all that as we get closer because it's pretty much shut down for the year. The season just ended last weekend. And so it'll probably be sometime right after the first of the year, they'll crank it back up. And that's when I would tell everybody to get the app. And then, this podcast will be going. Trying to do it every Friday. May miss a few here and there, but when I am on, you can drop comments, you can ask questions about the app, you can do whatever. I mean, I'll go through the whole setting up a fantasy team, all that good stuff. It's pretty exciting. You're not going to get excited and hooked on it watching it on TV, but get the app, get some free tickets, go to a race up in Michigan, Indianapolis. We race at Pocono over in Pennsylvania. St. Louis is only 6 hours. There's talks they're going to bring back the Kentucky Speedway, which is just south of Cincinnati. You're only, even the Bristol race is only 6 hours away down there. And to me, that's the ultimate racetrack. That one in Atlanta are probably my two favorite racetracks. So, once you go, you're going to be hooked, especially if you like cars. It's loud. It's very loud. It's just loud. And it's not, there's dirt and debris flying all over the place because cars are going by at such a fast rate of speed. It's like you may notice my shirt says Blackjack. Well, that's Josh Berry. He drives the number 21 car. And he won the race in Las Vegas this year. So they put out a shirt called Blackjack, and I immediately had to have it. Best venue to go to? I would always, as much as I hate to say it, being I'm from that state, I would not go to the Texas race. It's normally a pretty good race. The problem here recently, it had a few bad spots, but you got to remember you're outside and you're in Texas, and it's normally in like May or June. So it's not real fun. It's super hot. Best venue to go to. I like Atlanta. Atlanta is fun. There's a lot to do. It's south of Atlanta. It's not necessarily in Atlanta, but it's south of Atlanta by about probably 45 minutes. But there's plenty of stuff to do. If you could make a whole week out of it, which is what me and my wife do, by the way. We pick a race and then we plot a vacation around that race. So we go like 3 days early and go tool around, and then we take a couple of days to get back, and we just kind of tool around coming back to Columbus. So that's how I would base it. Bristol is amazing because of the scenery. It's up in the mountains, and you got the mountains, and then the racetrack is sat down in a bowl. They call it the world's last great Coliseum. That one's really good. Michigan is good, but Michigan is good if you're more into just flat out speed. There's times in Michigan those cars are topping 200 miles an hour. It's one of the fastest, if not the fastest track on the circuit nowadays. In fact, I want to say that's where Tony Stewart set the all-time speed record in qualifying, and it was like 212 miles an hour. That may not have been it. He may have hit that speed in the race. I'd have to look that up. But yeah, he was at 200. Somebody was clocked at 212, and I'm pretty sure it was Tony Stewart. I know Bill Elliott did it down south. Bill Elliott did it down at like either Talladega or Daytona. But that was before they put so many more rules in to control the speed of the cars at those big, huge super speedways. If you didn't have the control of the cars like they do now with all the safety enhancements, these cars would be pushing 230, 240, and they would just become airborne missiles. They're that fast, and they're 3,500 pounds, and they get airborne like it's nothing. go back and watch the 2023 and 2024 Daytona races in the spring or fall, sorry, whichever. 23 and 24, it was either Daytona or Talladega. It could have been both. The races there were some wrecks that will just freak you out. One guy barrel rolling 14, 15 times, gets out, comes to the racetrack, races the next week. You got another guy, my guy, Josh Berry, was leading the race, got clipped in the rear bumper, goes sideways, flips upside down, goes at about 150 miles an hour at this point into a wall, upside down, head on. Gets out of the car like nothing's wrong. I'm sitting there like looking at the TV going, get out of the car, you know. So those are some of my best venues. Those are the three I like the most. St. Louis is fun too. St. Louis is a little 1 mile track right there. It's actually in Illinois, but we call it St. Louis because it's literally right next to St. Louis. That's a fun little track. We had a really good time there. They put on a really good show at that event. Those are probably my top four. I don't know that I could choose one. What Doug say here? Doug Jones. I used to go see the funny car races up on the north side of Houston. Yeah, funny cars are fun. Drag racing is fun. You definitely wear earplugs to a drag race. It's so much louder than the NASCAR even. But the NASCAR, I mean, the funny cars were crazy. I mean, they race right up here too in Hartford. I believe it's Hartford. See what this one is from Doug. What's the track in Fort Worth? That is Texas Motor Speedway. It's a good race. They race there. It varies. They move the schedule around. The schedule's out for next year. I just don't have it in front of me right now. I'm taking a little bit of a break since it just ended. Taking a little bit of a break. Want to get this podcast rolling, man, so we can get some more people involved, get some more people excited about this sport. But they race there normally May. Every now and then they'll throw that race in September, which isn't bad. But man, if it's in May or June, like I said, you don't want to go to that race. It's so brutal. The heat and that many people, it's not worth it. I've always said they need to put that race at night because that is a track that does have lights. And when they've raced there at night, it's been really good racing. So I'm hoping they'll go back to a night race there. That would make it a lot more bearable. So you've just got there's so many different elements to this sport there's so many levels to peel back, so to speak. There's a team, there's a dynamic in the team, but yet you don't do the team dynamic because you've got to win or want to. Prime example, you've got Penske, who owns 3 cars in the Cup Series, which is the number 2, 12, and 22. The 2 is driven by Austin Cindric, the 12 is driven by Ryan Blaney, and the 22 is driven by Joey Logano. They also have the 21 car, which that's like a alliance car for the Wood brothers, which is, of course, my guy. But they all have a dynamic that I don't care what you do as long as you don't wreck your teammate. Some teams are like, doesn't matter what you do. Whoever wins the race wins the race. But Penske is like, don't wreck your teammate to win the race. And, you have just different dynamics because you have a team, then you have, an owner of the team who's got 3 separate teams, but yet they're all one team. And, it's just a crazy dynamic in the sport. It's the weirdest dynamic of all the major sports, especially when you take into consideration that, when you think about it, the season just ended and the Daytona 500 is less than 100 days away. So the Sunday after the Super Bowl is the Daytona 500 every year. So you have the Daytona 500 in less than 100 days. So these guys, even though the season just ended, they're all back at the race shop building cars for next year and prepping and testing and simulating and all that, because they have to. It's a year-round thing. There is no really off season. They go, pretty much all the teams are based out of Charlotte, North Carolina anyway, or right around there. And they're all back there working on their cars. They'll get to Daytona. Once they get to Daytona, they will race for 36 consecutive weeks. 36 weeks. And I think they have 2 off weeks next year. Some years they only have 1. This year we only had 1 off week, and that was Easter. Easter is always an off week. Easter and Mother's Day are normally the days they take off. So, but you're talking 36 races traveling all over the U.S. Start in Daytona, go to Atlanta, go to Austin, Texas, out to Las Vegas, down to Phoenix, back over to Tennessee, up to Virginia. They're all over the U.S. Like I said, last year was crazy because when they left the Michigan race we were at, the cars were loading up and they were going to Mexico City from Michigan. But yet they were in Fort Worth, Texas 2 weeks prior to that. I was like, wouldn't it have made sense to go to Mexico City from Fort Worth versus Michigan? But whatever. So it's a huge, long sport. They do have playoffs. It's not just how it used to be back in the day where it was just a point system, and half the time by the four races left in the year, you already know who the winner was. So they went to a playoff format, and it's the only sport to this day that when the playoffs start, you have 16 drivers. You race 3 races. The top 12 after that in points or have won a race move on. And you do that again, and then you cut it down to 8, and then you do it again with 3 races to get to 4 people. When you get to 4 people, the championship race was in Phoenix last weekend. Next year, it'll be in Miami. When you get down to those 4 people, it's not just those 4 on the track, though. There's all 32 other cars on the track also. So you don't have to win the race to win the championship, but you have to beat the other 3 competitors that are in the top 4. But you still got 32 other cars on the track. So you could be leading the race. Somebody in second place or somebody in a lap car up ahead spins out. You run into them. You lose the championship because somebody else's problem. It's the only sport that involves that. And you've got to also take into the fact that these cars are cars. Motors break. Brakes give up. Clutches go out. So you could be winning the race. Your clutch goes out. You go in to get a pit stop for gas. You can't get the car started because you can't get it in gear. You got to get the car pushed. Now you've gone from leading the race to now you're 20th. It's just one of those. It's something I wish everybody could experience at least once and make their own decision for. I'm gonna put some more stuff together for probably next week, and I'll go next week. I'll probably break down more of I'll have the schedule put up, so if anybody wants to know when races are, or you got questions on how long does it take to get the points built up. I mean, I can tell you this right now: if you do the app and you're adamant and you stay on top of the stuff, you can have 5,000 points by the time of the next year's over. I was on it this year. I did it every day. I'm obviously at the highest tier, but I had, I think I finished with 12,000 points. And if you think, I'm not going to go to a race next year, you don't have to. They have sweepstakes. You take your points, put them on a sweepstakes. Sometimes it's free Sunoco gas for a year. Sometimes it's win a VIP trip to the championship race. Just all kinds of different stuff. So there's plenty to do with the points and the stuff you earn. It's not just race tickets. So just you know, like I said, if you want, I mean, we'll get more into it. We'll get some more questions from y'all. We'll get some people rolling in. We'll knock out what we can do and see if we can turn some people on and get this rolling. I mean, like I said, to me, no better fan experience than this place. Best sporting event fan experience I've ever been to, and I've been to every major sporting event there is. It's one of those things that's just so phenomenal. So looks like the questions have slowed down. Anybody got anything else before we get on out of here? If not, we're going to get on out of here, and I'm going to go crank up and spend the evening with the wife and relax. So, all right, gentlemen, ladies, children, everybody, don't forget now. You watch us, go like and subscribe to us, me, all the channels that we mentioned earlier. You'll see them probably roll by at the end of the video too. Go like and subscribe. That's what we do. I mean, we don't do this for fame and fortune. We just do it for the love of whatever the sport is, and trying to get more people involved, and anything we do from there. And one more quick topic on that. A lot of times, if you and your wife or girl or whatever want to go to a race and you got kids, normally the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, their tickets are free for children under 12. So just another way to make a family event out of it. And who knows, might even make a young race car driver out of one of them kids. I keep trying to get my granddaughter to do it, but my daughter says no. So we'll jump on. We'll get some more stuff loaded for next week. We'll jump on next week. Other than that, check us out. We'll be back on the channel tomorrow. We'll be back on Sunday. We'll be back on probably Monday. Pretty much every day. Come check out WTP Sports Dudes. You won't regret it. I promise. Other than that, everybody have a great night. Stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.